Okay, so I want to start today with a little word association. Just one word. You ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
Stewardship.
Oh, wow. Okay. My immediate gut reaction, boredom. I'm sorry, but I'm thinking like budget committees.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of someone with a clipboard asking why I haven't volunteered for the parking team yet.
Right. It's the word that makes everyone suddenly want to check their phone. It almost always feels like a lecture is coming, usually about money or time.
Yeah.
But today, we're diving into a source that just flips that whole concept on its head. What if the most valuable thing you have to manage to steward isn't your bank account at all?
Okay. I'm intrigued. So what is it we're managing?
Your story.
Hmm.
More specifically, the messy, chaotic, sometimes really painful parts of your history.
No, that is a massive shift in perspective.
It is. We're looking at a message from Pastor Matt Erdos at Living Water Community Church in Anderson, Indiana. And the whole theme is stewardship of your testimony. And I've got to tell you, going through these notes, this is not some dry theology lecture. It feels more like an action movie mixed with, I don't know, a medical drama.
You are not exaggerating. I saw the source material, and we have, motorcycle gangs, we have medical miracles that literally defy the laws of physics.
And a very, very specific encounter at a Taco Bell.
The Taco Bell encounter, yes. It's a wild ride.
It really is. But the mission for this deep dive is to pull out the biblical content that's, relevant to our lives today. We want to see how our personal history isn't just a memory, it's an actual tool, a tool for encouragement.
Exactly. And the goal is to leave you with 3 key points that you can actually use. And we're going to illustrate them with 3 incredible real-life stories from the congregation: Tanya, April, and Greg.
And let me just say, Greg's story involves a purple chalk outline, so
Mm-hmm.
you're probably going to want to stick around for that one.
Oh, definitely. But before we get to the chalk outlines, we have to lay the groundwork. What does Pastor Matt even mean by testimony? Because that's another one of those church words people just kind of gloss over.
Totally. He actually starts with a little equation the church had been using. He says, time plus talent equals testimony.
Okay, simple enough.
But he goes deeper. He defines it in a way I hadn't really heard before. He says it's not just, I survived. Because, let's be honest, a lot of people survive things just out of pure luck or stubbornness.
True. Survival is an instinct. Testimony is something else.
He defines it as visible evidence of God's work in a surrendered life. It's the difference between a survival story and, a redemption story. But this is where it gets really interesting. He uses this anecdote to explain what you shouldn't do with your testimony, and it is, well, it's bizarre.
You're talking about the basement story.
I am talking about the basement story. When I first read this, I had to double-check that it wasn't some kind of parable. But no, he presents it as a real account from a Nigerian pastor back in 2001.
It's a jarring story, so set the scene for us.
Okay, so this pastor is in a fatal car wreck. Pronounced dead. Gone. But his wife,
Huh?
she doesn't call the funeral home. She feels this specific spiritual pull to take his body to a church service happening down the road.
Just pause on that for a second.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the level of faith or maybe desperation to wheel a casket into a church service instead of a morgue?
It's so intense. But here's the conflict, and this is the part that really illustrates the whole stewardship point.
Yeah.
She gets to the church, and the ushers stop her at the door.
The gatekeepers.
They tell her, you can't bring a casket in here. They basically say, look, we're having a service. This is
Disruptive. It's the ultimate bureaucratic no. They're looking at a grieving widow and a dead body and thinking, this violates the fire code, or this is going to kill the vibe of the worship set.
totally. So what do? They don't turn her away, but they tell her to put the body in the basement, under the altar. Just put it downstairs where no one can see it.
Out of sight, out of mind. And that image, putting the body in the basement, that's the key metaphor for this whole deep dive.
Well, the story has a crazy ending. During the service, the man actually comes back to life. A full-on resurrection miracle happens in the basement.
Which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But Pastor Matt's takeaway isn't just about the miracle, it's about where it happened. He says, we are not to put our testimonies downstairs.
Ugh, that hit me hard, because how often do we do that?
All the time. The ushers represent that impulse, whether it's internal shame or just pressure from society to hide the messy parts of our lives. We think, oh, I can't bring this addiction story into church, or I can't talk about my divorce or my depression. It's too dark. It's too dead.
Right.
So we shove it in the basement.
We want to present the shiny trophy, not the muddy boots we wore to get it. We want the after picture without ever showing the before.
Precisely. But the point he drives home is that the basement is exactly where the miracle happened. If you hide the mess, you're hiding the visible evidence of God's work.
He says that when we hide what God has done, the kingdom literally stops expanding. It's like having the cure for a disease, but keeping it in your pocket because you're embarrassed you were ever sick.
That's a perfect analogy. And he connects this to the story of the woman at the well in John chapter 4.
The one who had 5 husbands, a pretty messy story.
Right, a total social outcast. But the scripture says the whole town came to believe because of the woman's testimony. She didn't hide her past. She used it as a bridge. If she had put her story in the basement, an entire town might have missed out on Jesus.
So that's key point number 1. A testimony is a tool, not a trophy. Don't hide it in the basement.
Which brings us to the next question, right? If we're not supposed to hide the mess, what does the mess actually look like? Because sometimes we think a testimony has to be this, neat and tidy story.
Yeah, and Pastor Matt makes it really clear. God meets us in every kind of valley. He emphasizes that it's not just one thing. It can be physical or it can be mental.
And this is where we shift from that story in Nigeria to real people in the pews at Living Water.
Let's start with the physical battle. We have to talk about Tanya Lane.
Tanya, I looked at her timeline in the notes, and it just reads like a list of things that should have killed a person multiple times over. It is relentless.
Relentless is the perfect word. It starts way back in 1984. She has a fall, and she's paralyzed from the waist down. Doctors give her the whole never speech. You'll never walk. You'll never have children.
Which for a young woman, that's identity shattering.
But the testimony starts right there. She defied both. She walks. She has 3 kids and now grandkids. But then, fast forward to 2007.
The car wreck.
Oh, the car wreck. She takes out 20 feet of fencing and literally wraps her van around a tree.
Wraps it.
Wrapped. The van is totaled. By any law of physics, that should be a fatality, or at least a critical injury.
Right.
She walks away with 2 bruises.
That's just wild. But looking at the notes here, it doesn't even stop there.
Nope. It picks back up recently, from 2022 to what will be 2026. Stage 4 lung cancer. She goes into remission. Then a heart attack. Then lymphoma. She just casually mentions she's finishing chemo in April of 2026.
Wow. It's exhausting just listening to you list it all. It really feels like she's been in a boxing match for 40 years.
Exactly. But here's the stewardship part. When Tanya talks about this, she isn't listing complaints. She's not up there saying, woe is me.
So what is she saying?
She's listing victories. Her takeaway is the core of this point. She says, it's not about the size of the trial, but the faithfulness of God through the trial.
That's a profound shift. She sees her suffering as a kind of spiritual training. The notes say she calls herself a prayer warrior, specifically because all those battles forced her to learn how to fight. She stewarded the pain into power.
Which is incredible, but not everyone's battle is physical like that. For a lot of people, the valley is. It's all in their head.
And that's a very different kind of suffering. Which brings us to April.
April's a worship leader, but her story is all about the identity battle. And honestly, this one hit me harder than the physical stories. Because bones can heal, but words stick around.
They do. April's story is just one of deep systemic rejection. Her biological father left, her mother considered abortion, and then later her mother actually looked her in the face and said 5 words no child should ever hear.
I don't want you out.
That's a core wound. That just destroys your sense of belonging from the very start. And then she also dealt with abuse from a babysitter's son and saw her mom go through a severe mental health crisis. So April grew up basically believing she was a mistake.
And I think so many people listening can relate to that feeling of being unwanted, even if the details are different. But the turning point for April is so specific. Her pastor told her to do something that honestly sounds terrifying to me.
He told her to just ask God, what do you love about me?
See, I'd be scared to ask that. I'd be afraid of just silence. Or getting some generic Hallmark card answer like, I love everyone.
But she didn't get a generic answer. And this is why the details of a testimony matter so much. God got personal.
The first thing she heard, I had to reread this part. God said, I love your hair.
It sounds almost trivial, doesn't it? Like, really, of all the things in the universe.
It feels too small. And she even thought, that it was just her own random thought. She dismissed it.
But then watch what happens. She's stressed out later that week, sitting in a Taco Bell drive-thru, a very mundane, unspiritual place, and a complete stranger leans out and compliments her hair.
And it didn't just happen once, it happened 3 times that week.
It's such a beautiful example of how God speaks our language. He knew April didn't need a big theological lecture on her intrinsic worth. She needed a tangible, almost playful reminder that he was looking right at her. It wasn't just, I love your hair. It was, I see you. I'm paying attention to the little details.
And then the conversation went deeper. He told her, I love to hear you sing. And then the big one, I is proud of you.
I noticed that grammatical quirk in the notes. I is proud of you.
Yeah, and she says that's just how it felt, this overwhelming, singular sense of pride. Like a parent talking to a small child. It's so personal.
The takeaway there is just so powerful. God heals the mind by replacing the lies we've been told. He replaced I don't want you with I am proud of you.
So, okay, we've seen the physical battle with Tanya, the mental battle with April, but our third story, this is where we get into the action movie territory.
This is where we have to talk about Greg.
Greg. Now, if April was fighting an internal battle, Greg was fighting the whole world. He's introduced as a hard man, vice president of a biker club, carried a gun everywhere, wanted absolutely nothing to do with church.
He's the rebel, the guy who thinks he's too tough for grace. He'd built this armor around himself, the leather vest, the gun, the whole attitude. He was just inaccessible.
But Pastor Matt didn't preach at him. He just pulled up alongside him on a motorcycle.
And that relational piece is so key. You can't lecture a guy like Greg. You have to ride with him.
But Greg needed more than riding buddy. He needed a wake-up call. And boy, did he get one. The crash.
The purple chalk outline moment.
Yep. He crashed his bike. It was bad. Shattered shoulder, split pelvis. He was in a coma, screaming down the hospital hallways. But the details? There are two specific miracles here that just make you stop. First, the gun.
This detail is fascinating. So he had a loaded pistol in his pocket when he crashed.
And when he hit the car, the impact was so severe that the hammer of the gun actually struck the bullet casing.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't firearms experts, explain why that matters.
Well, the hammer hitting the casing is what makes the gun go off. It ignites the powder. Physics says that gun fires, period.
And where's the gun pointed?
It's in his pocket, pointed right at his femoral artery or his gut.
Yeah.
A fatal shot. It misfired, the casing was dented, the impact happened, the powder just didn't ignite.
So it's a double miracle. He survives the crash itself, and he survives the weapon he was carrying for his own protection.
It's incredible. But then there's the heart issue. This is the second miracle.
Right. Before the crash, Greg had this genetic heart condition.
Right.
An aortic valve problem. It was serious. It had killed family members. He needed a transplant, but he was terrified of the surgery.
He was avoiding it.
Completely running from it. Refused to go under the knife.
But the crash forces his hand. Right.
It does. The accident damaged his chest so badly that the doctor said, we have to operate on the heart now. They did the open heart surgery he was terrified of while they were fixing everything else.
So the disaster actually saved his life from the thing that was already killing him.
It's what you'd call a severe mercy. God used the crash to fix the heart. And here's the kicker. He walked out of that hospital in 4 days.
4 days after a motorcycle crash and open heart surgery.
It's medically unheard of. It should take weeks just to recover from the heart surgery alone.
But the physical recovery is just the setup, right, for the spiritual recovery. And this is where key point number 3 really lands. Surrender transforms the family.
Because Greg didn't just get patched up and go back to the club.
No. He talks about leaving his club patch on the altar.
That is such a huge symbol. That patch was his identity, his rank. He traded his identity as a biker VP for a new one. And that quote from Pastor Matt just sums it all up. When you win the man, you win the family.
And you see it in the results. Greg says now, when you get in his truck, it's playing worship music. His whole family is serving God. He stopped dragging them to clubhouses and started leading them to the altar.
It just shows that stewarding your story isn't only about you. Greg's surrender saved his household. His testimony became a shelter for his wife and daughter. If he hadn't stewarded that wake-up call, they'd all still be in that lifestyle.
So let's bring this all together. We've looked at 3 unbelievable stories, Tanya, April, and Greg. What are the big takeaways for you listening?
I think we just go right back to the roadmap. First, key point 1, don't hide your story in the basement. The messy parts, the parts you think are dead or shameful, that is exactly where the life comes from.
Don't let the ushers in your head tell you to hide the miracle.
Exactly. Then key point 2, God is in the details of your valley. Whether it's preserving you through decades of cancer like Tanya, or noticing your hair in a Taco Bell drive-thru like April, he's hyper-specific to your needs.
He speaks your language.
And key point 3, surrender is the path to victory. Grieg's story shows that sometimes a wake-up call is just God's way of breaking your armor to save your life and the lives of everyone you love.
And I love the closing thought from Pastor Matt, because I know someone is listening right now thinking, well, that's great, but I haven't been in a motorcycle crash. I haven't had a Taco Bell miracle. Do I even have a testimony?
That is so important, and he addresses it directly. He says, you don't need a purple chalk outline or a medical miracle to have a testimony.
So what does he mean by that?
He says if you've been dragged to church all your life, that protection is also a testimony. Not having the scars is just as miraculous as being healed from them. Preservation is just as powerful as restoration.
That's a great perspective. It all connects back to that scripture, Revelation 12:1. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony.
Your story is a weapon. Whether it's dramatic or steady, it's a weapon against hopelessness.
So here's the question I want to leave you with today. If your life is a story God is writing, what chapter are you in right now? And maybe more importantly, who is waiting to hear that chapter so they can survive there today?
That's the question. Who needs you to bring your story out of the basement?
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.
Take care.